everybody. So I have sort of a little science experiment to do that we're gonna turn into an art project. So I'm going to show you how to grow alum crystals. And so I did some the other day, and you can actually go through and take a crystal and like make it bigger by redoing this whole process over again. But it's very easy. First you need some alum. So this is in the spice aisle, and it's usually used for pickling. And it just comes in like a little thing like this in the spice aisle. And then you need a glass dish and half a cup of hot water. So you can microwave your hot water, you can just use a kettle, however you want to do it. So I'm going to take the hot water, I'm going to pour it right into my glass dish, and then I'm going to put the alum in, and I'm going to scoop it in. So for half a cup of water you want about 2 tablespoons of alum. If you're working with teaspoons, that's 6 teaspoons. So I'm just going to scoop. So mine is a teaspoon. I'm going to scoop about half of it in and then stir it. So we want to make sure it all dissolves. And then once it's dissolved, I'll do the other half. The reason that you want to use hot water is because you will get more alum dissolved than if you use cold water. Okay, the powder's mostly gone. So I'm going to do the other half. Okay. And mix that all up. And so if this is your first batch of crystals, you just want to make sure it's all nice and dissolved. And then you're going to put it in a place where it won't be disturbed for about 24 hours. So those crystals that I showed you earlier, it took a day to grow those. And what happens is as the mixture cools, because you've dissolved more alum in the water than the water can hold, the alum finds itself and it bonds back into these crystal structures. Alum will give you those nice big crystals. And then we'll be able to use those big crystals and do some wire wrapping. Okay, so it looks like the powder's all gone. And all I want to do is set this off somewhere where it won't be bothered. And I'll come back and I'll check on it 24 hours later. You can also cover it with like a coffee filter or a piece of paper, but you don't want to put like a lid on it. You want the water to be able to evaporate a little bit. But a coffee filter that'll help keep any like dust from settling in, or if you have pets, any pet hair from settling in. And so yeah, so you just let that sit, and then we'll come back tomorrow and I'll show you how to take one of these crystals and grow an even bigger one. Okay, so once you've got some crystals grown, you can pour out as much of the liquid as you can, and then pour your crystals onto a paper towel so you can kind of inspect them to dry them off. And what you're looking for is you want a nice big crystal that's pretty clear. So like that one might be good. These are called a seed crystal because you're using it to make an even bigger crystal. You're going to grow another one off of it. So I'm going to take this one. It's pretty good size, nice and clear. And I'm going to set everything else off to the side. And I'm going to just take regular dental floss. You can also use fishing line, but you might not have fishing line at home and you have dental floss. You want something, thread will also work, but thread is going to attract and grow crystals on the string, whereas because this is coated, dental floss is usually coated with wax, it won't. And you're just going to want a very kind of carefully tie a knot around your crystal, because we're going to suspend this in another batch of that same solution that we made. So again, it's going to be 1/2 cup of water and 2 tablespoons of alum. But you want to make sure this time that you let it cool down to room temperature, because you don't want your big crystal to start to dissolve. So, and it's a little tricky, which is also why you want to try to find as big a crystal as possible to use, because the bigger your crystal is, the easier it will be to tie this knot and get it to stay. Okay. So that is going to hold it. And I'm just going to take like a pencil or a paintbrush or something, and I'm going to tie the other end around that. And I made up more of that solution, but this time I put it in a taller glass so that there's room for it to hang down. And you want to make sure that your crystal's going to hang down and be fully submerged and not touching like the bottom. So when you put it in your glass, you're going to put it in so that it's hanging down in the middle. And you're just going to let that sit for another day, and we'll come back and we'll check on how that looks. But we should have an even bigger crystal this time tomorrow. All right, so now we're ready to finish our crystal project. I've got a few different crystals. So this is the one that I had hanging from the floss growing in the glass. I've just taken it out of the glass, dried it off, and taken it off the pencil that was holding it. I'm just going to take some scissors, and you can see right here, that part's not really attached. Those are separate crystals. And I can pull the floss right out. If you can't pull it out, then you could just very carefully cut it. And then you got little pieces that might flake off. But for the most part, this is one big piece. And then I've got a couple of little ones that grew in my flat dish that are about the same size that might be nice earrings. So I'm going to take those. I'm going to take some wire. This is 16 gauge wire, so it's a little bit thicker, but you can use 18 or 20 gauge as well, which will be even thinner. And I'm just going to unwrap it. And you don't need a lot, because remember, you're working with these crystals. So I'm going to do about a foot or so of wire for my big crystal. I'm just going to cut that with some wire cutters. And then I'm going to take it in the middle. I'm just going to bend it with my hands at the moment. If I need to, I can use pliers, but I think it's soft enough I can use my hands. So I'm going to make sort of a little loop in the middle, and then give that a twist. Halfway around. You can also use, oh, that's too big. You can also use like a paintbrush or a pencil for leverage too if you need. So just give that a little twist. And then I'm going to take my crystal and sort of orient it the way that I want. So I want it like that. And then I'm just going to carefully work on bending the wire around it, because I don't want to break my crystal. Remember, these aren't gemstones. These are made of alum. We grew these ourselves, so we don't want to break our crystals. They're not as hard as a gemstone would be. Okay, so it kind of goes down, and I'm going to go around it now to hold it. Okay. I'm going to take the other one the opposite direction, just to give it a little bit more interest. Okay. So then I've got a wrapped crystal, and I could put that on a chain, or I can make a bracelet for it to go with, or anything like that. And I have a little bit of wire that's sticking out where I don't want it, so I'm just going to give that a clip. If you have a sharp end of your wire, you can file it down with sandpaper, or if you have one of these metal nail files, you can just hit the end of the wire with that nail file, and that'll smooth it out a little bit. And a thinner wire is going to wrap a little bit easier, but you won't get quite as much of the wire look. And then I can do the same thing with my earrings with another piece of wire. So I've got my necklace pendant, and then I'll have earrings to go with it.